Hey everybody, welcome to the show. I'm Ryan, he's Mike, it's Eggs. This is Eggs. This is Eggs.
What's Eggs?
Eggs is a podcast about all things creative, regardless of what that means to you. From the creativity involved in launching a business, building a brand, crafting an entertainment career, or whatever, we'll talk about the process of growing your eggs from start to finish.
Hey, buddy. How you doing? How's Spain?
Oh, it's good, man. It is hot, though. So we're dealing with some serious heat and humidity issues. I'm a little bit blessed, I guess, because I have air conditioning and not everybody here does. So my little flat here is refuge for me.
Well, that's nice.
Yeah, so it's not so bad. But I keep getting texts from all my friends here and stuff, or other kids in my class, and they're going off about, oh man, we just don't have air conditioning. We can't sleep. We can't, And I just, I feel bad going, well, I have a nice big cozy bed and the AC's great. And, so anyway, but I will say in my defense, I looked for a place with air conditioning prior to coming. These guys also looked prior to coming, the ones who are in my class anyway. And they chose places that did not have air conditioning. So that's kind of on them.
That's totally on them. That's their problem.
Yeah, I don't feel too bad about it. So
humidity is a whole other kind of thing, though. It's like, it could be 100 degrees out, but when you add the humidity to it, it's like, oh man, I remember you'd take a shower in the Philippines and you'd be done and you'd be like you're still wet from the shower and you're dried off.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's really the thing. I mean, it's 100 or 80 degrees here, excuse me. But like the humidity is something like 80%, 79, 80%, which is actually a little bit lower today than it's been in the last couple days. But, that humidity, man, makes it hot. And more than hot, it just is sticky. And that stickiness sucks.
Yeah, and sticky's the perfect descriptor for it. It's like muggy, just.
Yeah. Well, and I find that, by the time I walk from my house, get on the metro, go to school, it's like all of 10 minutes. But by the time I get there, I've sweated through my shirt. It's a mess. And, so I'm in a constant state of sweating through everything and then drying off and then sweating through everything and drying off. And I'm having to, dry off and change clothes like twice a day. It's the worst.
Get to the school and just excuse yourself. Go.
Yeah, it's the worst. They have air conditioning, but it's not like in the States. It's not ducted or anything. There's just a unit rigged up on the wall, and it's and it's got the AC. So it's it's fine. It does an okay job, but they don't leave it running all the time. Maybe we Americans are a little spoiled or a little wasteful, but these guys run it, cool down the room, turn it off. And it's not just like one person, so I don't think it's a fluke. This is just kind of how everybody I deal with does it. But it's, they run it, they turn it off. And it's, in the grand scheme of things, it's probably better. It's not as wasteful, maybe, as leaving it running all the time.
Yeah.
But yeah. Well, yeah, like today I got home. I had turned off the AC in my apartment this morning because it was a little bit chilly. And then I forgot to turn it on when I left. And so when I got back from school, and I had run around and done some errands and screwed around a little bit today, but when I got back, the apartment was warm, and I was just like dying. And so luckily, this place is as big as a shoebox, so, the AC has cooled it off rather quickly. But it's, it's a little bit different that way. I guess my American skin is delicate and used to my all-the-time air conditioning.
One of the first things I do when I get a hotel room is just turn the AC unit on and just leave it on the whole time I'm there. And there's just something about sleeping under like warm blankets and having it cold outside. I just love that. But
yeah, I'm the same.
And the fact that I don't know that, I've already paid for this power, so screw you.
It's true. How very American of you.
Very wasteful of me. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, it's it's the same. And I guess maybe because I have some awareness of it, I feel bad, so subconsciously maybe I wanted to turn off the AC and not be wasteful. But But I don't think I meant to leave it off. I think it was an accident. I think I had fully intended to leave the AC on all day, so when I got home, it was nice and cool. But blew it today. So, but anyway, this last weekend, we went to a place with the school, just a activity. My partner Anna is out of town, so I didn't really have anyone to hang out with. So I went with the school to a place called Tosa del Mar, which is a beach up in they call it the Costa Brava region, and it's really pretty great up there. My only complaint is the sand up there is a little bit rough. It's like kind of coarse, more like little tiny pebbles versus like a fine sand beach.
Soft, shiny, sandy beach that you want.
Yeah, which kind of surprised me actually because they're pretty famous beaches. So I thought they were going to be white sand, beautiful beaches, but I mean the water was gorgeous. Everything was gorgeous. I mean everything was amazing, but.
Going to the beach at Puget Sound or something like that. Just
yeah. So, but the sand walking up to the edge of the water was kind of rough and pebbly, and then getting into the water, it's fairly rocky. I mean, quite a few rocks and things like that. So it was actually kind of uncomfortable getting into and out of the water. But it was worth doing. It was nice and it was fun, and I was hanging out with a couple guys from the school.
Was it? I mean. Freezing?
No, it wasn't warm. I mean, it wasn't freezing, but it was chilly. I stayed in the water for maybe 20 minutes, and that was kind of enough. So it was a little chilly, but it was nice. And it was such a hot day that, taking that dip and just cooling off was nice. So, but I was hanging out with a couple guys from the school. Actually, all but one guy was Italian. Well, one is Montenegrin. One is from Tunisia, and the other three I was hanging out with were Italian. And so it was kind of a fun group of guys, and we had a really good time hanging out, and yeah, not bad. So overall, nice weekend. I had a lot of work to do too for clients back in the States, and so between work and a little bit of play, pretty much occupied the weekend. How about you?
Oh, I got back to Idaho late Wednesday night, probably 3 a.m. And just, went to bed, woke up the next day. I had to work that night, so I did that, and then I worked Friday night. And Saturday morning, I got up real early and continued work on that rock wall, and rented a Bobcat for 2 days to work on that. Seems like every time I rent a piece of machinery, there's a problem of some sorts. But this time, I ran over a piece of rebar and poked a hole in the tire.
Oh no! I thought those things had those like solid rubber tires. No,
you would think, but evidently not. It poked a solid, hole the size of my finger in it, so they couldn't patch it. So $200 later, I got a new tire for a
Bobcat that doesn't belong
not
to
even mine. So, yeah, that was fun. Then I just kept working on that. I still probably have 2 or 3 more days to go before I'll finish that. It's a huge, huge rock wall. I've never done anything this big, but it's looking really cool.
Sorry.
Anyways,
so
yeah.
I'm jealous. So, like I said before, I'm super jealous about the Bobcat. I would love to be just cruising around in one of those things this summer.
Well, you know what? When you get back to the States, we'll just rent one, and I'll let you operate.
Yes.
I'll lay all the rock.
That'll be perfect. I just want to go build a ramp, and then I'm good to go.
Okay.
I mean, we don't have to jump off it or anything. I just feel like that's what you're supposed to do. Move some dirt and build ramps.
We should do that in the wintertime and do it with bobsleds.
Oh, that would be fun.
Sleds or whatever, yeah. Anyways, yeah, it wasn't, just normal weekend other than the rock wall. Had a couple good gigs at Center Street. And
speaking of Center Street, didn't you put in a bunch of new equipment and stuff over there like semi-recently?
I put in new lighting.
Yeah, how's that?
The way when I come into a venue like that, I like to kind of bring my own equipment into it to just kind of get the nights going, because if it's job security, it's kind of a way to, the more I put in, the more people are excited about it, and then the nights get busier quicker, and then I can justify to the owners, like, hey, this is why you want to spend money.
Well, and a lot
And
of times, like especially in those smaller bars and clubs, like the owner may not even recognize that upping their lighting game, for example, might be the thing that draws more people or makes their bar or club unique. And it's kind of in the grand scheme of things, kind of a small investment, but it can pay dividends if you put in a good light show. And especially like in the case of Center Street, if you're one of only a few places that are so lit up, you really can draw a crowd just based on having the best environment.
yeah, it's the atmosphere you create. It's everything kind of that you're focusing the entire show, the entire everything to that one person that that's there, the client. And if you can create an atmosphere that's pleasant, not too loud, but sounds good, and like a nice low end presence, but you're not blasting the eardrums out. You have a cool light show. Thursdays we do music videos so that all the TVs, I think there's like 16 TVs in the venue, and all of them playing the music videos to the songs. And so, it definitely sets the venue apart from anything else in Southeast Idaho, I think.
Well, and that's really the big thing, whether you've got a business or product, service, whatever it is, any sort of key differentiator that you can have is great. In the case of a bar or a nightclub, a drink's a drink's a drink. Maybe some place pours a little heavier than another, but a Jack and Coke's a Jack and Coke. So you can get the product any place. So what you've really got to sell is experience or atmosphere. And so, upping the lighting game, improving the sound equipment, that kind of stuff, even though they're sort of intangibles, I guess the light's physically tangible, but it's, it's sort of something that you have to buy with the hopes that it does something. I would say generally those types of investments probably pay back.
Well, we started everything with a pretty small budget. Like I think I had like $5,000 to buy a sound system and a light show. And if you know anything about the sound system world, you can spend $5,000 in an amplifier, like one of them. And so I bought everything kind of on Craigslist and just shopped, and I had some equipment of my own that I kind of donated to the project. And by mixing some of my equipment with their equipment, I had it sitting around, might as well use it kind of thing. We were able to get a pretty decent sound system for their budget. And then over the course of the year or two that I've been there, I've kind of been like, if we get this right now, it's on sale, we'll need it for later. And then, we'll have it and we'll save the money by buying it now. And then, like a light controller. We use Show Express, which is a Chauvet product. And essentially it controls the DMX channels for the lighting. And what that means is, like, I can take a moving head and I can say I want it to be blue, and then I can take another light and say I want it to be green, and do like the Seahawks colors or something like that. So you can literally control the entire environment and say, the beat of the song is 105 beats a minute. You can tap it out to the beat of the song, and now all the lights are moving in sync with the music. And so little things like that, I could just leave it on its standard, pre-programmed lighting show that they come with. But it'll be strobing in the middle of an R&B song, which is stupid. Why would you have a strobe pattern going while it's a slower song?
Yeah, maybe it's just me, but I can't think of any reason to not have a strobe going.
Just everyone just goes into
just
an
always, yeah. See how many people you can throw into a seizure.
Yeah. Anyway, so you just kind of, I've always been on the thought of, you make your money when you buy the piece of equipment, not when you sell it. So if you can buy it at a good price and use it for a few years, sell it for essentially what you paid for it, and then buy a new piece of equipment just so you stay current and up to date with stuff. That's kind of how you have to run a venue, a sound system like that, is because you get wear and tear, and before things break to the point where they're useless, you like to kind of get your money back out of it. And I wouldn't, Well,
and that helps sort of eliminate any risk in buying new gear.
Yeah, and the thing is I don't buy new gear. And very rarely do I go to Guitar Center or, online or whatever. I always shop, classifieds and shop pawn shops and the mixer for my studio. I have a Control 24 Pro Tools controller, which is back in the day, it's $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 for the mixer, and I picked it up for $250 at a pawn shop.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Later. It still works. It's not top of the line, not the newest, but I could turn around and sell it for $1,000 right now and make $750.
Yeah. Well, and it does the job. I mean, it may not have the latest tech or the latest bells and whistles, but there's no reason. I mean, you can get away with using that older one.
I use it for control surface to, when you got 24 channels of audio and you're doing a mix down on a song, it's nice to have faders that they're touch sensitive. So if you change the volume on something, you can automate it and it'll remember that, you turned it down there, and you can do a good trim pass on a mix with, without trying to do it with your mouse inside the software. It just makes it a lot easier. So,
yeah, well, I mean, I think it goes without saying that it's sort of like that with anything. I mean, you need the right equipment for the job.
Well, kind of like you and your tablet,
yeah. Well, that's the thing. I mean, with all the equipment I buy, whether it's a new laptop or a new tablet or whatever, whatever the piece of technology is, you need whatever it is to do the job well. And I found that, you don't always need to buy the latest, greatest. I'm pretty particular on a few different things, so like the laptop I carry, that kind of stuff is all, as good as I can get. But there are other places where you can trim corners a little bit, or where you don't need to actually go all out.
Yeah, my laptop's a little older, but I just had the logic board replaced. I just put a new battery in it. It's got 8 gigs of RAM. It's got, it's got what I need to get by with. Eventually, I would like to buy a new one, but
well, that's the thing. We're getting into a space where all these laptops. I mean, I work primarily on Mac. But like the last 3 MacBook Pros I've had are like all pretty much. I mean, of course, there's upgrades every time. Either new, more memory, faster processors, whatever. But really, we've sort of hit a level where even my oldest laptop, the one that I have that's maybe 3 years old or 4 years old at this point, I mean, it performs every bit as well as the new one. I've got a brand new one too, and I mean, there's not a noticeable difference between them. I mean, it's, I'm sure the new one's fast, the old one's fast, they're all fast, but I'm noticing that it matters less and less to run out and get the latest, greatest, because the difference between this year's processor and last year's processor, barring some kind of grand leap between them, is generally not that big. They're more or less the same.
My iPhone is like, 5 years old. I don't even know what model it is. I've had it forever, but it still does the job.
Well, it's funny because that was the big, so I've got the latest, the 7 Plus. But it's funny because the only real key differentiator between this one and the 6S Plus that I had before was the camera. So, there were all kinds of other things. There were performance bumps, there were memory bumps, there were, everything. But you kind of can't tell the difference. I mean, really, the only thing that changed was that little bit of the hardware. I mean, I think the speakers are better.
Doesn't make a big difference as far as like the picture quality, though?
Oh, yeah, the camera's sick on this thing. And, I mean, I'm a little bit abusive of the portrait mode because it makes these cool, like, depth of field photos.
That's cool.
But, I mean, you can shoot stuff on this camera that, I mean, looks, more or less professional. Now, I haven't used any of the photos I've taken, as output for anything important. So I don't know, maybe if I was actually drilling down and needed a good quality photo for something, I'm sure it's not as good as, your, good quality DSLR or something. But for what it is, I mean, the fact that it just lives in my iPhone and I can take 98.5% of all of my photos with it, I mean, it's perfect.
Yeah, you can't beat that.
Yeah. And I mean, it was a little bit of yeah, I just think it's funny that the one factor, the one major difference between the 6S Plus and the 7, outside of a few little technical details, was the camera.
Dude,
I mean, it's like,
I'll tell you what,
but that's how good these phones are getting now.
I wish they would come up with a different way to charge these things. The lint that gets stuck in there, and my headphone jack has the same problem. Like
Yeah, I don't have a headphone jack
never
anymore.
listen to headphones on my phone because it it's messed up. And so I guess I just need to get a new phone.
Yeah, of
But
course. No, actually, you can take your phone if it is all jammed up with lint, because that happened to my old
I've
phone.
done it. I do it all the time. It
I
just
was gonna say, yeah, you can take it over to Apple and they'll scrub it out. They've got a thick bristled paintbrush they'll scrape it out with, but.
yeah.
So, but yeah, no, it does suck, and that's definitely a flaw. And I think it'll probably only be another generation or two before they do contactless charging or something, or where they do it over a wireless connection versus plugging in to charge.
Well, I just wish they do it like they did their laptops with a little magnet plug like that. It's just
Yeah.
3 contact points. That would be brilliant if they just
Well,
did.
and actually somebody came up with an aftermarket way of doing that. I'll have to see if I can come up with the link, but I've seen it on Instagram before. It's basically this little thing that has a lightning connector on one end and plugs into your end there, but it just leaves like 3 little contact points on the outside, and then it's got a little MagSafe plug.
That's rad.
And so it sort of retrofits your iPhone to be more like a MagSafe connector. And yeah, it's pretty slick. I'll have to see if I can come up with the link though. So, but it's pretty cool, and might do exactly what you want. Plus, it keeps that lightning port full, plugged. So it eliminates the lint issue. Yeah, I mean, my only concern would be is if it falls out or if it's easily snagged on other things. So, I mean, you just have to try
Yeah,
it
that
and
would
see.
suck. You spend $20 on it. And
Yeah,
have
because
it
if you
for a
lose that
day.
part, then your little MagSafe thing is worthless. But that might be the worst of it. I mean, if it works, I mean, it probably stays in pretty well, I would guess. And maybe if you have a case on your phone and it can sort of be up in there, maybe it's not an issue at all.
Yeah, I've actually seen cases that have like a little slide thing for it where you can cover it to keep the lint out.
Yeah, so maybe that's the deal. You just get one of these little MagSafe things, and then you get a case that covers up the plug, and then it's case closed. You're all better.
Yeah, because God forbid I go back to Android. I couldn't do that.
Ugh, I don't even like to hear you say that.
I know.
So,
right?
although I will say, there are some nice phones from the Android crowd, but my problem, and it's just because I haven't been in their ecosystem at all, but when I pick up a friend's phone that's an Android phone, I don't even know where to begin.
I know.
I mean, for me, it's not very intuitive, and I'm sure it has to be intuitive. I mean, for Google to put it out or whoever.
It's got to be somewhat intuitive, but we're just so used to the Apple product.
Yeah, well, that's just it. I've lived in the Apple ecosystem since like iPhone 2 or 1, and it's just it would be hard for me to switch over.
I go back to a PC, and it takes me for like, what? Where do I go? How do I get on?
No, it's funny because like my mom, she refuses to switch to a Mac because they don't use Mac at her school. My mom's a school teacher, and so they don't use Mac at her school, so she refuses to switch to a Mac. So, but I've always been her tech support, but now I can't help her. I mean, I haven't been on a Windows machine since like Windows 95.
Could you imagine trying to reinstall the software? I don't think.
No,
I mean, like,
it's a nightmare.
I couldn't do it. I don't think I could go. I'd have to watch like 8 hours of YouTube videos to figure it out.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing, and so
It's
yeah,
just
and so I've been trying to convince my mom to switch and get into a Mac because I think it would be a little bit more intuitive for her. You just don't get the kinds of errors that you do on a PC, and of course I'm speaking of my old PC experience. I don't know, maybe nowadays they don't error out as often as they used to, but
no, they do.
Careful now, you're going to start a war with the PC
Here we
people.
go.
I'm trying to play both sides here, but you're kind of out there, man.
Full on hate mode. I think.
So, but yeah, it's frustrating because my mom will, to save a nickel, she won't jump into a Mac realm. And as much as I tell her that, Microsoft Word on the Mac is the same as Microsoft Word on the PC, it's the same file format, everything.
I just want to
she
teach
just
my
won't
parents
switch.
about Google Drive, because they're hitting me, hey, we need to update Office. We need to do this. And I'm like, I don't do any of that anymore, Mom. Just jump on Google and do it there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, you can do it all for free on Google. Apple has a version of that too in their iCloud. You can use Pages and Keynote, and
And you can share files and collaborate with people.
yeah, it's a snap. So you can
I
choose
just
Mac
updated
or you can
it.
choose the Google equivalent, or I mean, I think it's like, I don't know, $10 a month or something, maybe even less to do Microsoft's online version of Word too. So I mean, it's pretty affordable, I mean, for the cost of what it used to cost you to go out and actually buy the software outright. You can use it online and always have the latest and greatest updates, for not that much.
Yeah, and I mean, the Excel files and stuff, we just did a database with 20,000 files in it, and two or three of us jumped in and edited it, over the course of a month. And it's nice to be able to have hey, you start here, I'll start there, and just kind of work our way down versus, having one master file on your computer and you update and try and, working as a team with, Microsoft Word or Excel or something like that. I'm sure that they probably have an online equivalent, but Google has it down. It was nice.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, we were talking about that just before we sat down to record today because we use Google Docs and Google Drive for everything with this show as a way to sort of organize and keep things together. And yeah, I mean, you and me can share a single document for notes. We can pass notes back and forth. We can edit. We can revise. We can do all that stuff right from the doc. And, I mean, it really couldn't be easier for collaboration and that kind of thing.
Well, and the cool thing is like you're literally typing in the file I'm working on, and so I can see your thought process kind of coming out, and then I can add to it, or like it gives me ideas for things, so it's nice, just to be able to see your cursor, what you're working on, and then I can move down the page a little bit and just start doing my own thing.
Yeah, and I mean, I will give like Apple on their version, of this and their iCloud. I prefer their interface. I prefer everything else, but I don't use anything but Google for this stuff. I use Gmail for business for our company email, and it's linked right to Drive and everything else. I will say that I still prefer Dropbox to Drive.
Really?
For purposes of file storage and file sharing. Google, the interface is maybe it's too complex for me. Maybe it's too, I don't know what it is, but for whatever reason, it doesn't seem to work as well or as easy as Dropbox does for us.
I like how Dropbox is kind of a list, whereas Google Drive, they're kind of doing it like a ID card almost. Like this is the file and it's a square kind of, and it's a grid system. And for me, when you're working with a lot of documents, like, if I'm working audio related and I've got 1,000 songs that I need to download or sort through or something like that, sorting through the ID cards is hard. Whereas if I have a list in front of me, I can scroll down it real quick. I can see where I was just at. And instead of, I was in the center of the page, 2 columns over, that's just weird.
Yeah, I have to imagine they've got some sort of sort options or view options, but yeah, I don't know. I haven't given it the time to really figure it out, but we have people, working from all over the planet on different projects for our clients, and the way that we can share our Dropbox together and be working on a file, and if we're working on the same file rather than overwriting, it always makes us a copy, and I mean, it's really smart, and the cost isn't bad. We have a lot of storage, and I mean, we have, 3 or 4 years of client files in our Dropbox. And then, and then we also have a Amazon Glacier storage. And so we'll pass everything off to the Glacier storage for long-term storage. And so, and
that work, I've never messed with that.
It's pretty easy. It's a little complex to get set up and everything, but it's a snap. It just works like an FTP server, but it's not great for accessing files that you need regularly. So you wouldn't use their Glacier platform for, files that you're working on day to day, but it's more of like a secure archive, and then you can pull files, whenever you need them. But I think in order to keep the price down, you're not supposed to access it a lot. There's some bandwidth restriction and stuff like that. And so it's really for long-term storage of files you're not really using anymore.
Yeah, see, I use Dropbox to back up all my files as far as like...
Yeah, and Dropbox could probably do it. Maybe that's secure enough and would do it all. I don't know. The Glacier storage is really inexpensive, though. Like I have something, 4 or 5 terabytes worth of stuff in there right now, and it's like $17 a month, I think. I mean, it's very cheap, but it's designed for long-term storage. It's not really designed for getting access to every minute. I mean, you can access it via FTP and pull stuff down right away. I mean, it works just fine. But like I say, it's sort of designed for long-term storage, so it's really affordable. And yeah, I mean, we've got a whole bunch of old hard drives kicking around, and we may never use any of these files again, but we've generated a lot of things over 10 years. And so I want to put those someplace just so that God, just to have. I mean, you just never know when something might come up, and or maybe we lose a machine or whatever, and we can't get to something, or we need something that we did years ago just as a reference, or who knows. But yeah, so we store both ways. So Dropbox is sort of our active day-to-day storage, and then we use Google's Glacier Storage, Amazon Web Services Glacier Storage for all our long-term stuff.
Cool.
Yeah, not bad. So pretty cool. So one of the things that we wanted to talk about today is Mike read a book. It's a really big day for Mike. I guess he didn't read it. You listened to it, but
I had to sit
but it
down
counts
and
kind of.
hold the book and read it, I wouldn't read anything.
Hey, I will tell you, I've been super proud of myself on this trip. Well, I shouldn't be that proud of myself. It's too much, actually. But I started trying to read a book. It's maybe the first book I've read in who knows how long, because I don't just sit and take the time to do it as much as I should. I'm such an advocate for always learning, but I feel like when I'm sitting just reading, I feel like I'm not spending my time well.
I know. I'm such a multitasker. I have to kind of... I'll have something on, but I'm also working, and it's not the proper way to learn. It's you need to focus, you need to pay attention.
Yeah.
And that's why I kind of like, audiobooks while I'm driving, because I'm going to be on the road for 12 hours. I might as well be doing something.
Yeah, and that's the thing is I like audiobooks in principle, and I honestly I've never listened to one while I was driving. Maybe that's the way to do audiobooks, but I will often try and put on an audiobook while I'm working or whatever, and I clearly can't focus on both.
That's the thing is the book you kind of have to pay attention to and get into, and if you don't, you get lost and then you're confused. And if you're trying to do something creative, I think it must use the same part of the brain or something, because it gets all jumbled for me. I can't do coding or working on
that's me too. Like one part of my brain just shuts off, and I can either focus on this or that, but not both.
Driving, I can kind of I'm alert, I'm attentive, I'm not it's not like I'm not paying attention to the road, but I can kind of sit back and get into the book versus I think if I was in like downtown Seattle and dealing with traffic, I wouldn't be able to as well, but long stretches through Idaho where you turn
you're on the freeway for 10 hours in a stretch.
Yeah. Then it's fine. I mean, the book was called The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck.
And I need to go back, and I'm going to listen to this also, but probably not going to physically read it, but I will listen to it because you've told me it was good. And it's one of those books that came out kind of recently that I've heard about, and I think, on its face, it seems like there could be something valuable in there.
So the first chapter, I was like, man, this is juvenile. He kept using the phrase "not giving a fuck" over and over.
I will say, I love you being critical of something being juvenile, though. I love that. Because you're just like me. I mean, we're juveniles, kind of.
Yeah, I know. I
really old for juveniles, but kind of.
Well, I was like, okay, I get it. You're just kicking a dead horse at this point.
Yeah, that's the problem. When you use a thing like that on the title, which is obviously meant to grab or to, get attention, it's kind of a cheap trick, so I could see being a little skeptical at first or being a little beat down by that.
Once you get past the, like him beating it down, like just whatever, it turns into a really good book. He's got, it makes you realize that you're really freaking out over stuff you really shouldn't. We're all going to have problems, and you'll get through them, and you shouldn't be stressed over the little things. And as things progress, you still have problems, but they're not as grand of a scale. He was talking about Jay-Z has financial problems, but so does a guy standing in front of Safeway with a sign,
Well, yeah, as far as I remember, I mean, I'm not real close with Jay-Z, but I think he's got 99 problems, actually. I mean, more than just finances. I think he's kind of, ridden with problems.
That was a good one. But yeah, I mean, like essentially, he kind of just breaks it down, and one thing that I paid attention to because it's kind of in the audio world, he called it the feedback loop from hell. And for those of you that don't know what a feedback loop is, it's essentially if you go to a concert and you hear that loud screech that's coming from like the speakers, and it's like and everyone looks at the DJ like, what the hell did you just do? Someone stood in front of the speaker with a microphone and said something, and the audio that was going into the microphone would come out of the speaker and then go back into the microphone and just create a loop, and it's called feedback. And essentially what he equates that to is like someone could, oh, I'm having a bad day, and then it just kind of you get a email from a client canceling on you, and then something else, and it's like you just get in your head, and then all of a sudden you just hate life, and if you can.
And for anybody who battles mild depression, we're all familiar with this feedback loop.
Yep.
So because I'm exactly the same. I can start off a day, and then as soon as I've made a decision that something's not going right, it's one thing, then the next thing, then the next thing, then the next thing, and I'm eventually, comatose on the floor somewhere, not being effective at all.
Yep. And he says just kind of step out of the loop, take a look at it, and realize, okay, it's not as bad as you're making it out to be. Just kind of chill and move on, and it really makes sense. Couple quotes that I liked. One of them was negative emotions are a call to action. Positive emotions are the rewards. So, if your bank account's in the negative, you got to do something to make some money. And, when you get some money, go buy a new pair of shoes. You know what I mean? It's like, I don't know. I just that one kind of stood out to me. Another one was
well, we're a clean show too, so we only advocate for work that's on the up and up. So don't go looking real fast for that quick buck.
Oh yeah, sure. Another quote that I liked out of the book is, "Who you are is defined by what you're willing to struggle for." And he breaks that down pretty well. But what you're willing to work for and what you're willing to get done kind of defines you as a person.
Well, it definitely defines you as an artist or a musician or whatever your passion is. That being able to or being willing to struggle is, got to be that thing you have passion for. There are a lot of people who will sit and struggle with a crappy job or, a crappy marriage or whatever. So you've got to find inside yourself, sort of what is that thing that you would be willing to struggle for. And when you're willing to struggle for it, then it's totally worth doing.
Yeah. Yeah. And it, not only defines you as a person, it just kind of gives you motivation to continue and to work harder.
Yeah, I like it. So I'm always an advocate for things that, sort of encourage digging deep and, forcing yourself to keep at something because eventually it'll work out or, you'll see the benefits at some point.
Yeah, lots of times people quit before they can actually reap the rewards of the work that they've done. They just give in, throw the towel, and then, I'm sure at some point it's necessary, like no reason to beat a dead horse, but if you keep struggling and things actually pay off, there's nothing more rewarding than that. It's really
well, and it's
cool.
funny how quick you forget the struggle once things start working out too. Like it doesn't feel like pain anymore. It turns into something different.
Exactly. So all in all, it was a good book. Like I said, the first little bit's kind of and then you get into it. I really enjoyed it.
Right. I got to ask you one more thing. I see here in the notes though, the self-awareness onion. What's that all about?
It's kind of like analyzing yourself and breaking down like you know how onions have layers, like getting
Like
to
ogres.
yeah.
Yeah.
Every little
No,
layer.
you didn't like that one.
I
It's a
I
Shrek joke. Come on.
Oh, yeah, I don't have kids.
Come on.
It was above me, so I didn't even acknowledge it. Like, I don't know what
Uh,
that is.
Come on, man. Get on your Shrek, would you?
Oh, sorry, I'm not up to date on my Disney. I don't even know if they are Disney.
No, they're not. DreamWorks.
Anyways,
Anyway.
yeah, I kind of jumped over that because I realized I didn't have enough to talk about on it. But anyway,
Yeah, no, I love the concept of a self-awareness onion, and without knowing what this is, I like the idea of making yourself more complex, adding more layers to you. You're not just a designer; you're an artist, or you're as many different layers as you can add. Be as multifaceted as you can. And I don't know if that's this guy's take on it or not, but I think just in terms of general, being alive, the deeper and more complex you are, the more layers you add, the more you have to offer.
yeah, like I said, I was driving when I listened to this, so I tried to take reminder notes or whatever, and I couldn't get too in depth. I liked the concept when I was listening to it, and I kind of want to go back and listen to it again and break it down again. But he's a very like good author as far as like getting his points across, and he definitely spent a lot of time thinking about it. He's kind of a rebel. I'd say he's kind of like us. He just one day decided to quit everything, and he moved to like Mexico and lived there for 6 months, then moved to Asia and lived there for a while. And he just kind of a traveler, and I enjoyed the book. I would recommend it.
Yeah,
So,
that's great. Well, and yeah, I think there's probably a lot to be learned from his book, and in just that the subtitle on the thing is a counterintuitive approach to living a good life. It's not really focused on being a great employee. It's not the counterintuitive approach on how to work extra hard. It's it's really about developing that good life and techniques for helping you do that. And so yeah, I think there's probably a lot to it, and I would recommend everybody takes a look at it. It's again, it's The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. It's by a guy named Mark Manson.
yeah.
And you can find it on Amazon or wherever you're.
I got
good
it on
books are sold.
Audible. Yeah,
An Amazon company.
yeah.
So, but either way, we'll put a link in the show notes.
So, well, cool. So today,
that-
I
yeah,
think
go
we were
ahead.
talking about our topic of the day is the benefits of being organized. Why you want to be organized? Why if you
Well, and it's funny because I mean, I guess for most people, the concept of some level of organization seems pretty obvious. Clearly not for everybody, but it's. I think, if I asked a person or a group of people, what are some benefits of being organized? Like, we could probably drill down on a lot of things on this list. But I do think, these concepts sort of reinforce some of the things we've been talking about in the previous few weeks when it came to work-life balance or some of these other topics we've covered in recent history. The benefits of being organized seem to have a lot of parallels with the type of things we've been talking about. So I think it's important to kind of beat that drum a little bit more, reinforce some of these points, and I would love to start hearing from people about how they've been able to improve themselves or improve their business, whatever it is, by implementing the things we've talked about over the previous weeks.
Well, I've always been kind of somewhat of an organized person to an extent. Like I didn't, you show up to an event with the wrong cable and can't do it because you have everything there except for one adapter, and it makes you realize, okay, I need to make sure I have extra cables. I need to make sure I have this and that, and a mental checklist of everything I need to be able to do a gig. And usually, if I forget something, it's something stupid like a laptop stand, and I can get by. But I remember there was we were doing these big shows down in Phoenix, and we used a Hog 500 lighting controller, and that has a 5-pin DMX to a 3-pin. So the output is a 5-pin DMX output.
DMX is a kind of cable for people.
Yeah, it's lighting cable, and most lights these days don't use the 5-pin. Most of them use 3-pin, and they look just like a microphone cord. But the output on the Hawk 500 was 5-pin, and we had a little adapter that would go from that to the 3-pin, and then you'd plug into the rest of the cable. And I remember I set up one time, and we got everything going, and realized when I sat down to start programming that I didn't have that adapter. And this was like for probably an $8,000 event. And you kind of crap your pants when you don't have that. Luckily, I was able to call someone. They were in the area, and I was able to get it. The show went off. But if I couldn't have, if that guy wasn't available, if I wasn't able to get that, I essentially would have looked like an idiot to a fairly big client.
And you'd have been a poorly lit idiot.
We'd have audio, but no lighting, and lighting is what for.
Yeah, well, and I think, especially in a service industry or any time where you're going to be interfacing with the public, obviously being organized is a characteristic that can be wildly helpful step by step. Whether it's show production like you're describing here, or if it's, I don't know, going to present work in front of a client and you forget your presentation boards or something. I don't know what it is, but
one of the cool things about being organized is it's less stressful. When you're ready to go and you know that you've dotted all your I's and crossed your T's, you don't have to worry as much about problems or unforeseen problems, because you're there, you're set up, you're ready to go regardless. And as far as my world goes, if I being organized, as far as like I have duplicate cables for things. I have 2 laptops. I always, when I do a wedding, I put all the music that's for, specifically for a reception or the ceremony, the different events for the wedding. I have it on both laptops and my phone, just so that way if something happens, I have 3 different backups just waiting in case something happens. And
good to plan for just in case.
Yeah.
And I think that, generally speaking, I think this leads pretty well into, the first thing we wanted to get into. And honestly, I think it's something that we've sort of been beating into the ground over the last few weeks, but I think it's super important. And I think it's a big positive that comes out of being organized, as well as, the other things we've talked about in the previous weeks, work-life balance, that kind of thing. And that is, being organized can often help lower stress. And it seems like, at least for most busy people, creatives, musicians, whomever, stress is the enemy, in terms of being productive and in terms of being on point and getting your best performance, everything else. Stress can be a massive roadblock, and being organized can help solve that. Once everything has sort of its place and you can remove a lot of those things from your queue of things to worry about each day, you can find that stress levels go down quite a bit. And go ahead.
Oh, do you want to finish that topic or?
Yeah, well, I was just going to say that, so I didn't begin life as organized as you sound like.
I was not the organized. No.
I am a little bit OCD when it comes to a few things. So there are a few things that I was really good at keeping straight and organized. And, when it comes down to like file structure and naming conventions and stuff like that on my computer, those are things that I pay a lot of attention to.
Yeah, I didn't. And I learned very quickly that you need to.
And that's the thing. I can go back through 10 years of files and locate old work, old jobs, old photos, whatever it is I need to get to, because for me, I've kind of stayed on top of organization when it comes to file structure. And it's funny because you and I were talking about that a little bit before the show, because I was organizing a bunch of crap for this show. In our Google Drive, making sure everything was in the right folder and that our show notes were in the right place, and making sure that everything was sort of searchable so we could find it later. And, they're little things. They take a little extra effort now, but that extra organization will help, when we're wildly successful and we need to go back to episode 4 because there was something we talked about once that we'd like to revisit. We'll be able to search that up.
Yeah.
So I
Well,
think that's a really good thing.
for me in my world, file structure and everything, back in the day, I used to keep all my music in separate folders. Like I would keep, R&B in one folder. I'd keep 2000s in one folder. I'd keep, you know, based on genre, I'd keep them in separate folders. And it it ended up causing a problem with lots of duplicate files, lots of searching, not knowing where my brain was at the time when I put it in a certain file, like where'd this track go, what happened, da 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 da. And so what I found is I've been using these things. They're called smart crates. It's built into Serato software, but it essentially I keep all of my audio files in one folder now, and all of my video files in one folder now. And within Serato, what I do is I go and I do genre tagging, and they have different fields in an ID3 tag. For those of you that don't know what an ID3 tag, it's the data that stores the album artwork for like a song. So if you play it on your car DVD player or whatever, and the album art shows up, that's saved on the ID3 tag. And so what happens is within Serato, you can write on the ID3 tags, and I'll actually go and I'll be like, okay, this is an opening track. It's top 40. I'll even analyze the song as to, the mood that I get. Like, is it chill? Is it groovy? Is it funky? Is it, like whatever the song, how it makes me react, or how I would, like a really popular type of music right now, I call it beach pop. And it's, like a Moomba kind of like just, it's like a beach pop, and that's how I call it. And so if I'm playing around a swimming pool or something like that, then I can pull up beach pop, and it's allowed me to keep all of my files very organized. I don't have duplicates. I can go and delete a song. Any DJ that's listening, if you select the song in Serato and hit Command Shift Delete, it actually deletes the song and the file out of the file and puts it in your trash. So if you want to just work inside Serato specifically, you can delete the file there, and you don't even have to go and find it in the actual folder and delete it. You can delete it straight out of Serato, and you can clean up your library very quickly that way. And instead of having 50,000 tracks, I dropped it down to like 15,000 tracks that I use frequently, or it's something that I feel I might need at some point. But if it's some classical song that Canon in D or something like that you use for ceremonies, I probably wouldn't delete that one because it's still used. But if it's something I never use or will never use, I delete it. Why have the clutter? Why search through stuff you're not going to use? And if it's bad audio quality, if it's something like the edit's jacked, I'd delete that because I don't want to accidentally load the wrong song and have a problem in my set. It's avoiding potential errors and avoiding problems and being organized. And I can't tell you how many times it saved my butt. So just keeping my music straight.
Yeah. And to circle back around, that all leads to less stress. You know that you don't have to worry about it. You're going to be able to find the music you need to perform.
I can't tell you anything more stressful than having 20 seconds left on a song and not knowing what you're going to play next. And then is it going to keep the dance floor going? Is it, you build up this what is it, feedback loop from hell. If you mess up once, then you're stressing, and you always wonder why requests piss DJs off. It's because we're actually thinking 5 or 6 songs in advance, trying to think of how it goes together, how it'll keep the dance floor busy, if it's how it'll affect the rest of the environment. If you come up and say, "What do you got next?" And you're just that annoying person, it messes with our groove. It messes with everything we've been thinking of. And yeah, I'll play your song, I'll get it on, just don't be a jerk and demand it next. And
Yeah.
I'll
Hey,
wear
man, I want to hear my gem, and I've got to leave.
Yeah, it's like, okay, leave.
Listen
Who
to your
cares?
jam
Get
in the
out of
car.
here.
Yeah, no, I get it.
It's all about creating an environment and creating a less stressful environment. So
Yeah.
if you
Well, and
organize,
I was going to say there's a balance here too with the less stress thing. So, because for people who know my wife, being organized for her is of paramount importance, and it's actually super stressful for her if things are out of place and are disorganized. So for her, it literally keeps her from stroking out if she has things sort of put away and organized. And so, I mean, for her, it's life or death. I'm pretty sure. But yeah, I mean, I can't emphasize more the importance of lowering stress in general, and I think it's probably the most important thing you get out of staying organized or being organized.
yeah.
So
One of the other things that being organized helps for is you're ready for a curveball. It's things come out of left field and just slap you upside the face, and if you're not ready for it, like
oh yeah, no, I can talk about that right now because I'm up to my eyeballs with crap. I'm preparing for an exam at my Spanish program in my school. So I'm trying to prepare for that. I'm balancing the workload of, well, my own workload plus that of my partner's because she's out of town. I'm trying to do all these different things. And then today I've got a client hitting me up with said curveball, 3 of them. And in this case, I mean, I couldn't have really gotten organized fast enough to accommodate these. But by being somewhat prepared, I have some backup resources for design help. I have different things like that are sort of in place already, that were organized and advanced. And by having those things ready, we'll manage this curveball. I'm not super stoked about it, but it's going to be okay.
yeah, you might have to lose a little sleep, but it's part of the deal, and at least you're getting it done.
Well, and really, this being ready for that curveball too is sort of what you were talking about earlier, where you have, extra cables, extra computers, extra, all this redundancy to sort of protect yourself. And CYA, that stuff is all really good and really helpful, not just for reducing stress, but so that you're prepared, when your laptop takes a dump or when somebody spills a cocktail on your mixer or, whatever
Well,
it is.
last week my computer overheated. Like it literally, the venue was so hot, and
Is it because the club was banging so hard?
yeah, I was just throwing fire left and right. The computer just exploded. No, it overheated, and what happens when it does that? The music will cut out, the video will lag. It just causes problems, and so I set up my second laptop and I started music going, and I put my video laptop in front of a fan and let it cool off, and so I was able to at least provide audio for a little bit. And then once the other laptop cooled off to a point where I could start working with it, I started using it and did video again. So it wasn't a complete, loss of sound and ruined the night. It was okay. Now you don't have video for a few minutes, but at least I have something,
Right.
I
But
also
had you not been prepared with 2 machines, you'd have been toast.
Yeah, and there's guys that will still carry actual records. Like sometimes Serato will crash, and it doesn't happen as much as it used to. When they updated the software from, it used to be called Scratch Live. Now it's called Serato DJ. And when they did the changeover, there was a lot of bugs, and it would crash all the time. And guys would actually carry records with them, like real records, just because, if it crashes, you need to have something to put on and something quick. It takes a few minutes to reboot your laptop. You can pull a record out, put it on, reboot the laptop, still have music going, and then mix out of the record and continue. So, little
that's
things
awesome.
like that.
Well, but to our point, organization, they knew which records to bring. They knew how to recover from their problem. They know the particular song or piece of vinyl that's going to most easily transition from nothing or from whatever they had into this. I mean, there's a lot of planning that goes into that. And so, it's not just some record willy-nilly. I mean, obviously they have to pick something that's versatile and will do the job.
Yeah.
So, so just to take some of these points just a little bit further, we don't want to beat this down too long, and the show's already going kind of long, but just to sort of extend this idea of the curveball, when you are organized and you've got a good handle on things, the overwhelming becomes much more manageable and easier to deal with. And so, this is sort of a byproduct of lower stress and, being more prepared in general. But you're going to be able to handle those curveballs when they are massively overwhelming, not to keep telling my sob story of how busy we are right now. But, I mean, what we've got on our plate right now is pretty massive. It's a lot of work, and we're a little shorthanded and stuff. So, I mean, it's a little bit difficult. But the thing that's keeping me from pulling my hair out, again, is this organization. The fact that we have people lined up and that we have other ways of accomplishing the job so that I'm not in a panicked mess right now. It's really helping me to manage my stress and make sure that I'm doing okay because, with so much on my plate right now, I really could just be a frantic mess.
Yeah, and if you have a meltdown and become a frantic mess, it doesn't help anything. It doesn't. Right. You just kind of, ruins a day, and you finally get back on your feet.
Yeah.
And get
Speaking of your downward spiral thing that we talked about earlier, and finally, I think and we talked about this just briefly before, but you're no good to anybody when you haven't slept, or you are so overwhelmed with work that you can't take the time to put any thought or creativity into it, and so you're going to find real lag or real decrease in your productivity. So as you get organized and as you sort of get to manage your life a little better, you're going to see the opposite. You're going to see spikes in greater productivity, and so I can't push hard enough on the importance of staying organized in as many facets as you possibly can. Back to being an onion. I think it's yeah. I think it's something that people need to do or to work on, and I think you'll find that it pays dividends.
Yeah.
Well, with that, I am gonna jump and get busy studying. I've got a bunch of crap to do for this language exam on Thursday. And so when you guys hear this Thursday morning, I will either be the next level or I won't. And then hopefully my stress levels will go down. So with that, I just want to thank everybody for the show or for listening to the show. We really appreciate your support, and, like it, share it, subscribe, all you can. To get into our normal plugs each for the week, I want to talk or remind everyone to visit our website, check out the Spotify playlist. Mike's been adding music to that. I've been remiss, but I will come around eventually, I promise. So if you want to learn more about me, Ryan, or my company, R2 Media Group in Salt Lake City or here in Barcelona, the website's r2mg.com. You can find us at R2MG on Twitter and at R2 Media Group on Instagram.
You can find me at djontic.com. That's ONTIC. And all my social links are on there. So just go there. You'll find everything you need there.
Perfect. And then finally, check out the show online. Visit our website, eggscast.com. We're starting the hunt for sponsors. So if you're interested in supporting the show in any way, shape, or form, you can reach out to us through the website or via social channels. You can find us at or on Twitter and Instagram at Eggs Show. So with that, everybody have a great and productive week. Get organized, de-junk your life, get reduce your stress and feel better, and check out the book that we talked about earlier. I think it'll if you do all those things, you're going to have a great week.
Yeah, just the book itself will probably kind of put you in a different mindset, which some people need. So check it out. Get past the first chapter and enjoy it.
All right, and with that, thanks everybody. Much love. Talk to you soon.
Bye.